Okay, thank you very much. After the introduction, let's start with our session. We are 5 minutes late as compared to the original schedule. We need to be perfectly on time. Let me tell you that before starting, I want to thank you, all the people involved in this event. First of all, the faculty. I'm happy to be surrounded by outstanding persons, and you will appreciate their level during their presentation. Thank you for coming. Thank you for attending. I think what we are addressing today is something which is growing every day bigger, and something will keep us busy for the rest of the 10 years. And so let's start now. And I have the pleasure to introduce the first speaker. The first speaker is my good friend Massimo Gion. He is a director of the scientific manager of the Biobank of the Venice Serenissima arrangement, whatever. Yeah, I mean, the health authorities in Venice. And he has an extended experience in biobanking, and he will present us a sort of summary where we started with, where we are, and where we're going to do next. Massimo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Claudio, for your very nice presentation and for your kind invitation. My talk concerns biobanks, and I would like to tell you some flashes on this topic, very general flashes. The first point concerns the question what a biobank is. Actually, when you think of a biobank, it doesn't work very well. I think no, sorry. Devo premere il pulsante bianco? Non sembra funzionare. Ah, adesso funziona. Ops. Riprovo. It works. The same with my motorcycle. I mean, the idea of this is a US National Cancer Institute Biobank that is based on plenty of liquid hydrogen and mechanical freezer, and therefore I presented these slides just to show you the first question. One usually thinks of large warehouses and freezers with frozen specimens, blood, urine, saliva, tissue, or pathological departments with collection of tissues. Actually, the question is, biobanks are only the buildings in which biospecimens are housed. Everybody knows that it's not like that, because biobanks are in the places in which we take a specimen, but are also the collection of policies and procedures that are developed to govern this operation. Therefore, a biobank exists only if the samples are associated with the government of the sample management and the rules that govern this kind of infrastructure. The biobank's tale, where biobank come from, biobanking was initially based on simple collections of tissue samples necessary for patient diagnosis in clinical centers. Over the decades, the value of such collections to research appeared and led to more organized efforts to use diagnostic biospecimen collection also for research purposes. In other words, starting from the diagnostic issue, the biobanks moved to research possible utilizations. An example that is typical of this pattern is the story of the American Force Institute of Pathology that was founded during the US Civil War, I mean really in 1862, as a collection of pathological specimens along with their case histories. But the emphasis on pathology that increases during the 20th century turned the museum into an international resource for pathological and for the study of disease. It was renamed the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology in 1949. And what it is interesting is that the collection available in the institution was used to characterize the virus, influenza virus 1918. Therefore, starting from 2 centuries ago, it changed its mission from the collection of samples for diagnostic purposes to the research purposes that are more and more increasing. The Biobanks tale over the past 30 years, what happened? Over the past 30 years, studies involving biospecimen collections became more and more prevalent in clinical trials, epidemiological studies, biomarker discovery and development. Sono davanti a qualcosa? Ah, vicino alla bocca? Ah, ero sulla cassa? Ah, scusate, era per non togliervi la vista dalle diapositive, ma da qualche parte mi dovevo pur mettere. Allora, disturbo. So we can say that biobanking is now considered a cornerstone in the development of precision or personalized medicine. Okay. Precision, personalized medicine. What is that? Precision medicine is a change of paradigm of medicine that is happening in the present years. Most medical treatments are designed for the average patient as a one-size-fits-all approach, which might be successful for some patients, but not for others. Precision medicine, also as personalized medicine, is an innovative approach to tailoring disease prevention and treatment that takes into account differences in individual characteristics. The goal of precision medicine is to target the right treatment to the right patient at the right time. Graphically, that standard medicine bases decision criteria on traditional clinical criteria. This is why some patients have benefit, some others have average benefit, and some patients have no benefit from standardized treatment. Precision medicine is quite different because decision criteria are based on individual biological characterization. And therefore, it is possible to select patients according to their biological characteristics and treat them differently, obtaining, theoretically, the response in all of them. You could ask a question, precision medicine or biobanking, what are we talking about? What have biobanks to do with precision medicine? Honestly, precision medicine or biobanks, precision medicine is based on the characterization of biological individuality of the person. Biological individuality of the person is based on the measurement of an increasing number of molecular and biochemical biomarkers in any individual person. Biomarkers are measured in biospecimen on the individual person, and biospecimen are collected, stored, and made available for research purposes in biobanks. Therefore, the question is not precision medicine or biobanks, but precision medicine and biobanks. That is what we are talking about. Is clear this concept? This is a key point in this presentation, because precision medicine is the future of medicine, of epidemiology, of prevention, and therefore having the possibility of characterizing patients is the core point of this approach. The evolution of biobanking, nearly 40% of cancer research published between 2010 and 2014 used human biospecimen, making biospecimen the second most important research resource after cell lines. And biobanks are therefore a crucial structure to speed up the progress of precision medicine. Very interesting, I address you this interesting review on biobankings that changes the paradigm of biobanking to the concept of biospecimen science, given a mainframe different from the mere banking process to the collection and use of biological samples. why this transition is prompted toward biospecimen science? Well, this transition started from the analysis of failures. Some failures occurred in high-profile studies, at least partially due to biospecimen handling and quality issue. One of the most well-known examples is the example of the Genoma project of the US National Institute of Health. And at the beginning of the project, it was discovered that more than 50% of biospecimens initially collected failed the quality control to be used. Therefore, this prompted several changes in the process, and a special interest for this conversation arises the problem of the biospecimen quality issue. Biospecimen quality issue is a big problem in all aspects of medicine, and in the research area in particular. Because while scientists control variables in the experimental setting and try to minimize them as much as possible, they usually barely know about the background of clinical specimen samples. They are very cleverly trying to modify the experimental setting, but then don't care too much about the samples. While to be useful to researchers, biospecimen must be of sufficient and appropriate quality. Best practice, what are best practice? Best practice are methods or techniques that have been generally accepted as superior to other known alternative that has become a standard way of doing things. As biobanks became larger and more complex in terms of numbers and type of specimen, several organizations published a series of high-profile best practice, and the institutions are BBMRI in Europe, OECD, National Cancer Institute, LISWER, the International Agency Research on Cancer, and the last approach of ISO 23087. However, in spite of interest toward the best practice, the evolution of biobanking continues, and best practice turned to total quality management, but has now become a major focus of biobanks. Multiple standard operating procedures for biospecimen management has been developed, and the revision and updating of the procedures are regularly performed to adequate specimen management to emerging biospecimen types and new technologies. In other words, biobanking is not a static scientific field, but it is a scientific field that has to change periodically in order to face new challenges, new type of samples, new type of technologies. And this is a quality approach, which is the state of the art with biobank. In other words, how many biobanks are there and which are the prevalent biobank types. There are several reviews. I will address your attention on this one. This one was the last published in 2022 by an Australian group. And this review uses locators to have answers to the question of biobank number and types. What is a locator? Board and organizations that survey and record existing biobanks are considered locators. There are 4 locators have been evaluated in this review. Locator BBRI again, the Canadian Tissue Depository, the UK Tissue Directory, and the Australian New Wales Pathology Directory. With this locator, the author could censor the number of biobanks existing in the different countries. As you see, they registered several biobanks in Europe, 612. But the point that I would like to emphasize is the ratio between the biobanks and million inhabitants of every country. As you can see, it is inversely proportional to the inhabitants. The more inhabitants, less biobanks available. The first is Australia with 9 biobanks per million, followed by Canada with 6 6.9 biobanks per million, UK 3.6, Europe 1.8. So Europe is the state of the art in Europe is that we can have more or less 2 biobanks per million inhabitants. Of course, it should be mentioned that they censored only 10 countries with comparable economical development. The variety of biobank is also interesting because biobank exists in many sizes and with multiple emissions, from small pathology laboratories with few freezers or collection to large institutional or commercial biobanks with hundreds of freezers and sophisticated automation, security, quality management, and so forth. The question of variety of biobank is that you have to classify biobank, and also this point is an arbitrary approach, but biobanks have been classified as large biobanks if they contain more than 10,000 cases for population biobanks and more than 1,000 cases for disease biobanks. And other biobanks are defined as medium or small biobank. Which kind of biobank we have to cope with? In other words, we have a uniform distribution of biobank or assorted distribution of biobank. Actually, the point of the type of biobank is a little bit surprising because the majority of biobanks censored by location, by locators, are small biobanks, from 70 to 80% of listing. This is a little bit surprising, and the question is why medium and small size biobank are largely prevalent. In fact, the data from a Canadian and Australia survey show that the ratio questa da qualunque parte vai, fa la stessa cosa. Per tornare indietro che si fa? Sotto? C'è uno altro pulsante diverso o lo stesso pulsante bianco? Ok, cavolo. Non avete una cosa per anziani?
3 tasti.
Ma no.
Indietro. Avanti. Questo è indietro. E deve...
Quindi io stavo usando lo sbagliato? Ho capito. Ci vorrebbe il puntatore Beghelli. Chi è italiano capisce, chi non è italiano non capisce cos'è. Sì. I said that medium, why are prevalent, the small and medium are prevalent? Based on survey, Canadian survey, the ratio of cell collection intended for single project versus collection intended for future use are 10 to 1. And the majority of researchers have strong preference for local biospecimen source and obtain less than 15% of sample from non-local source. In other words, there is a strong preference to have a collection created independently and be able to direct or own the final collection. This is a problem of an opportunity. This is a consequence of education of researchers that are motivated but are also trained to be innovative, original, and to compete. This point may be a very important opportunity for biobanking in the future because it is a resource to promote the development of mature, flexible biobank networks. In other words, linkage of medium and small sized biobanks into formalized network will extend the quantity and the variety of available specimens and enable reduction of unnecessarily large stock within individual biobank. So this is not a limit but an advantage, as it has been also shown in the review that I mentioned before. in which among feature issues there is the fact that traditional biobank with dozens of hundreds of freezers must gradually give way to a network of smaller, more efficient biobanks. Last but not least, which is the public awareness and attitude toward research of biobank. The public awareness is important because biobanking is a sector of medical research in which the partnership with the lay community is crucial for the informed involvement of potential donors, patients, and the public at large. And scientists must provide the public with relevant information to help them gain knowledge and ensure that public can arrive at an informed opinion and eventually make informed decisions. It is not surprising that in 2009, Time dedicated the cover to 10 ideas changing the world, and one of these ideas is biobanks. And this is in agreement with a more recent survey that indicated that the biobanking resulted to be the most popular area for public involvement activities in biochemical research and innovation. We hope that this kind of approach that is have a network of biobank, that is a goal of also of our project, will be helpful to improve research in the next future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. It was very enlightening, and we're going to discuss later at the end. So then I'm passing the podium to Devis Pascut, who is a senior researcher at the Liver Foundation, who is talking about the project sponsored by the region and the Interreg program related to biobank, of course. Devis.
A few months ago, we started this project, which is cross-border platform for efficient management of biobanks, which is an Interreg project, Italia-Slovenia Interreg project, which involves 6 partners: Italian Liver Foundation, so us, the Blood Transfusion Center in Lubiana, the Department of Medical Sciences from the University of Trieste, the Hospital Serenissima in Venice, the Faculty of Medicine from the University of Ljubljana, and a company expert team. We are also working with some associated partners, which are the Agency for the Development of Drugs and Medical Devices from Slovenia, Direzione Centrale Salute from Regione Friuli Venezia Giulia, and the Ministry of Health from Slovenia. So this belongs to the priority axis 4, so strengthen institutional capacity and collaboration cross-border. So I would like to start my presentation showing you a video which just received from our video service, trying to explain you what is a biobank, how it works, and why we need biobanks. So here are the pending questions now. This is a freezer -80, where we store samples, 0 samples. That we received from the Hospital Catinara in Trieste. samples arrive, are processed and stored, or maybe used for research. Discussion of the results, of course, with our collaborators. And then the results are sent back to the hospitals from where we collected, for example, the samples or to other hospitals. This is the hospital in Venice. At the end, the patient will benefit itself from the results we get from research. I was nominated as a best actor in Venice. I didn't win, unfortunately. I don't know why. So, you know that there is still a really growing interest in biobanks. As you can see, for the many journals published about biobanks, not only scientific journals, but also you saw before Times journal, Forbes, biobanking is changing the world. Population matters, biobanks accelerates pheno discoveries. So it's something important. So something which is also, which grows since 1996, in which for the first time someone used the term biobank to indicate a collection of human samples in literature. And then here the number of scientific publications growing during the years, so the interest is really growing up, as is growing up the interest from the European Commission, which is funding several projects dealing with biobanks, as our project, for example. So these foundings let biobanks grow across Europe. As you can see here, we have a large amount of biobanks now in Europe, which are grouped into the biobanking and biomolecular resource research infrastructure network. And Italy, as you can see, has quite a good number of biobanks working now. So if I go downstairs and I ask people, what is a biobank? I'm not sure that everyone can give me the right definition of a bank, of if they know what is a biobank, because maybe they can think to a seed biobank. Sometimes I can hear on TV seed biobanks that aim to preserve biodiversity, umbilical cord biobank. Bio means anyway something to biological sources, blood, tissue, urine, saliva. Bank is something that reminds an institute, a service, the banks where I store money, right? Where I put my salary, and the central banks store gold, a big treasure. So biobanks have a treasure inside, a little big treasure, which is the human sample. But there is a main difference. I want my bank account grow, and the money, accumulate money. And I think you want to accumulate money, but they have a biobank, don't want to accumulate a lot of samples. They want empty their biobank because they want the samples inside are used for research. So this is the main difference. So here are some biobanks around the world, the biggest biobanks in the world, which is Graft Biobank, Shanghai Biobank, the All of Us Biobank in the United States, which are very big biobanks. Before you heard that biobank is a collection of biological material, but what is important, I want to stress, we need associated data. So the value of a biological sample is highly reduced if we don't associate clinical data. If I have a blood sample, I have to know that that blood sample comes from a patient with a liver disease, for example. I need to know that liver disease is cirrhosis. I need to know that the donor was a female, 70-year-old female, that the transaminases were a certain level and so on. So I need all this information for research, of course. And I can say that biobanks are a service from the community for the community, I say. It's a service. So donors, maybe us, you can be a donor, are donating their samples, blood, serum, tissue, during surgery. The biobank collects the samples, process the samples, store the samples, and then distribute the samples to researchers that need the samples for running their research, any kind of research. Maybe then the results of research can be new drugs, new diagnostic tools, and thus increasing innovation, and maybe find a solution for personalized medicine, not medicine. What was interesting, I found online this survey from an institute dealing with biobanks. And they publish these results. So they asked to the Italian population, would you like to provide your information to a biobank? Well, 50% of the Italian population said, yes, sure, why not? The 50% of the Italian population said, not really, no, for sure not. I will not give my data to biobanks. And in Slovenia is even lower, the percentage. On the other way around, when they asked, do you have any concerns in giving your blood sample, tissue sample, genetic data, or medical record to the biobank? Well, in this case, we have 25% of population having concerns in giving these samples to the biobank. Contrarily to, for example, Northern European countries in which the tradition of biobanks is really older compared to our country, and the citizens know that they can have some benefits from the biobanks, you know? So this is interesting, and maybe we can do this in this region and in Slovenia, or maybe we can do right now. So let's maybe raise your hands, please. Let's do this. The people who don't have any concern in give a blood sample, please raise your hand. Let's see. Okay, maybe 50%. Maybe 50%, maybe 50%. Okay, so this is an interesting data. So that means that we have to increase awareness in the people for the benefits of biobanks. Here, the number of the topics of research projects that can get benefit in Germany from samples in biobanks. And you can see that deal topic that touch each of us. Each of us know person that has cancer, heart disease, COVID complications, and so on. So these are the projects that we can help with biobanks. For example, biobanks can help the best cure, which is prevention, diagnosis and treatment, but also increase what? The income of the territory, because it's an attraction for new project grants from the European community, from worldwide organizations. Basically, we can have two scenarios. A scenario in which we don't have a biobank. So, for example, I need 10 years to have 1,000 samples for hepatocellular carcinoma, which is my topic of research. But if we have an established biobank, maybe I can have 1,000 samples next week, and I can have the results of my research next month. And maybe I can transform this into a diagnostic kit next year. So this is the difference in having a biobank and not having a biobank. This is a huge difference. We experienced this, for example, with COVID, you know, with a lot of samples. We were soon ready with vaccine and new drugs and so on. So with the project C3B, we are creating a sort of connection between already existing biobanks with institutes that would like to create the biobank as us, as them. So it's a sort of knowledge transfer. Also, we have to train clinicians, doctors, nurses. They have to know how to collect properly the sample for the biobank. And they have to know that the sample has to arrive to the freezer within few hours. We are interested in liver, of course, because we are Italian Foundation, but also we include healthy patients from the blood transfusion center in Lubiana. But why liver? Liver because it's still among the 20 most common causes of death worldwide. There are also road injuries, but liver disease, cirrhosis. Counting in 1 million of deaths due to cirrhosis and 1 million due to hepatitis or hepatocellular carcinoma. So it's a huge number because there are still a lot of unmet clinical needs, which are, for example, early diagnosis of tumors, for example, or other chronic diseases. The new drugs, for example, working drugs that, for example, for cancer, we have very few drugs. Okay, and this, of course, costs because most of them are chronic diseases that impact for 15 billions in Italy, which is 10% of the annual budget for Italian health expenditure. So it's a lot. So, and of course, having samples from biobanks can boost the research, as they did, for example, for melanoma with a BRAF mutation responded to this drug, and for ERBB in breast cancer and so on. But unfortunately, we don't have those markers for the treatment in hepatocellular carcinoma. We need this, we need samples, and biobanks can be used for this in this disease. And with this, I conclude my presentation. So thank you so much.
Now let's move to the next presentation by Vladka Čurrin, Head of Blood Transfusion Center of Slovenia.
Do you hear me? I'm not the head of the Blood Transfusion Center, but I'm head of the research. So thank you very much for inviting me today to this meeting. I will continue what Devis started, and I will skip a few pictures because you have already heard about the project C3B, which we have together with Italian partners. We also have heard some points of the project and the objectives, but I would like to stress a little bit what we did in Ljubljana, because we are two partners. One from the Blood Transfusion Center of Slovenia, which is a national blood bank, and another one from the medical faculty of the University of Ljubljana, where I'm a professor. The objectives of these projects were to review the situation in the field, of biobanks in Slovenia, to identify the institutions which already collect the samples of human biological material or have a human biological material biobank. So this is so-called market analysis. We also wanted to check the interest in biological samples of healthy donors for research, education, and clinical studies. So we wanted to identify and adapt to customers our service, because it's very important if you conduct even clinical studies, research studies, or education process that you have samples of good and high quality. We wanted also to transfer good practices from the biobank in Venice. We heard the presentation of Dr. Gion. It was excellent. Thank you very much for this excellent presentation of biobanks and for the introduction. And we would like also to translate or transfer good practices from our institution, because we are under the inspection all the time. We are performing the process of collection, processing and testing of blood, which is a kind of pharmaceutical production, and we are quite aware how to work in this field. So we started, like Devis said, this year, and we wanted, the final goal is to have a pilot model of the biobank at our blood transfusion center of Slovenia, and we wanted to prepare all the prerequisites for the establishment and operation of a biobank of healthy control samples, and provide these samples to everybody in the program region, not only in our country but also in Italy, to perform even, like I said, clinical studies, research, or to involve them in educational process. This also fits into the strategy of our house, because in our strategy there is only there is also focus on the biobanking, and we want to educate stakeholders and promote the biobank and the Interreg project. Next week we have the meeting at Ljubljana Castle. We are proud that we have got two excellent positions in ranking in European region, and the project was found to be the best in the health field. I would like to show you very quickly the biobank survey which we performed in Slovenia this spring as a start of the project. We used a kind of methodology which wanted to identify all biobanks in the program area in our country. We have 5 statistical regions in West Slovenia, and we identified 4 research institutes, 55 health institutes, 3 universities with 9 faculties, 2 private biobanks, and 14 companies. We composed a kind of questionnaire which was usable or ready to use to all these people who gave us the replies, and we sent the questionnaire to 85 email addresses and to 93 personal email addresses to get the replies. The survey was performed online, and after certain time we have got the replies, and after collecting these replies and making some conclusions, we also performed individual interviews. So we found out that it was interesting to people to start some state-of-the-art of the field, and the questionnaire was completed by 27 groups from 13 institutions, and we were very happy because among them there were health and research institutions, faculties, and a company as well. And the replies were very interesting. We have got the majority of replies that that people collect human biological material, that they do have a kind of biobank of human biological material at their institution, the majority of them, that some of them also plan to have their own biobanks, and the others want to store their samples in in biobanks which are settled down in the other institutions. We also wanted to find out whether we have people who are interested in the samples which we would collect in our house, so the samples of healthy people. We found out that there was an interest, and the samples were intended to use for research, for professional needs, for some specific diseases, and for some other purposes. And this is what I already said. They would like to store also the samples in some other biobank. So this is a purpose for some service for some institutions. And as I said, yes, the material from healthy people, they were interested in blood, in serum, in plasma, in buffy coat, like leukocyte layer, DNA, and some were also interested in extracellular vesicles. We also performed the questionnaire at the University of Lubiana at Faculty of Medicine, because our Faculty of Medicine has a lot of research institutes. The biggest ones are institutes of biochemistry and microbiology, and we found out that several institutes are collecting human biological material or already have a biobank. 3 of them are already a part of international consortium. You see on this slide, this is EVA Global, Euro Biobank, and the third one, Indo. We also have Institute of Biochemistry and Molecular Genetics, as I already have mentioned. They have over than 10,000 samples. We learned from Devis that this is a big biobank. And they have samples of patients who suffered from many different diseases. This was the end of our presentation, but I would like to add, do I have a few minutes, Claudio? 2 minutes. Okay, I will use these 2 minutes. And I wanted to tell you what we did after this presentation was shown on our symposium in June 2022. After that time, and after the survey, we bought the equipment and we ordered the software, everything what is needed for a biobank in our institution at the Blood Transfusion Center. We filled the document for our ethical commission, and just 2 days ago we have got the permission to install a pilot biobank. And in the last semester of the project, this will be from October 2022 to March 2023, we are going to collect the samples according to SOPs, which we have in our house, and which we also make a little bit more perfect for this purpose. And we will provide these samples to one of our partners. This is expert team from Venice. This is the company which is developing some diagnostic tests, and our samples will be custom made for them to have proper samples of high quality for their validation process to put the kit on the market. And we have another project in our country. This is a genome project. My colleague who is running this project was also asking us to have these samples for their purposes, to have negative controls. So we are working quite well, and we are happy for this, how to say, tale, which is a real tale. And I think it is enough for these 2 minutes. I wish you a nice afternoon, and maybe we will meet somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vladka. This was beautiful and nice and very, very provocative and very nice. So, as the Americans say, the icing on the cake. The icing on the cake is the last presentation given by Agostino Steffan, who is medical director of the blood bank of Aviano. It's the research center of the region. Agostino.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Claudio. A small clarification. Not director of blood bank. I'm director of biobank. Different. This is director of blood bank, I'm director of biobank, and I'm director of clinical pathology. Until arrive the slide. No slide. But the important is the three presentation. The topic is biobank. But today, no, it's not important why biobank, but how do biobank. It's story, biobank, okay, finished. Now, the start, how do biobank? This is my model, the oncological biobank. And so, involves all clinical department, surgery, medical, radiotherapy, research, all together. This is the mantra of biobank. Involves all group, research group, high quality of information management system, high quality of information of patient. The patient is important in biobank. It's important to inform the patient. What do we need biosample and information banks? The CRO paradigm. And the important is information management system and the quality of collection. For me is very important in biobank. Dr. Jones say the same things, but this is a real life. Why today we come collection biobank? Collection is the story. Now is biobank. Collection coming up there, biobank. The collection is an old method. Why? The biobank, more samples, more consistency of sample, quality, a greater range of sample, fit for purpose. More, is very important, more complete and consistent accompanying data collection and annotation. A sample without data is a silent sample. Silent sample. More accessibility for study, sample and data sharing. Better developed legal and ethical framework. And biobanking must grow to precision medicine for patients. And it is important that the biobank published paper with biobanks, no waste of time, just research. Because biobank, Elvis say, is a service. It's a service for hospital, for region, for nation. It's a transversal service. And biobank is crucial in the cycle of benefits. Patient as donor, research as operator, industry as producer, and so on, clinician as user, and the return patient to benefit. The biobank must maintain the researcher a clinician. The clinician must love the biobank. This is important for every biobank, is oncological, liver, cardiovascular, and so on. This is the most important problem, the clinician. And so, we have this organization, steering committee, a director, secretary, IT, management information, legal, certification, operative responsible, blood and tissue, responsible data. This is our way to make biobank, but ISO 2387 is this the confirmation of biobank, and I think is important another question: personal dedicate. Personal dedicate. Biobank is a service. I'm director of clinical pathology, and I hope tomorrow another one director of biobank. No, I director one and one. Another one, a service, clinical pathology, blood bank, microbiology, anatomopathology, and biobank. And the important, the operative group study pre-analytical parameters, all pre-analytical parameters. This is the most important in a biobank. And in our region, we have chosen this system of computer system management, register certified institute, unique for region Friuli Venezia Giulia, decoupling data, personal data, and clinical data, all in a regular server farm. So, CRO Biobank organization, regional anagraphica, regional data entry with informed consents, a minimum data set. The sample not silent. The sample have clinical data set, and so return in the software of biobank. During the 10 years, we have collected every oncological pathology: liver, colorectal, breast, ovary cancer, lung cancer, hematological, at different therapeutic stage. Our biobank is patient, blood or tissue. Blood, serum, plasma, Baficot, PBMC, now urine, feces, and so on, a tissue. So, different therapeutic stage. After surgery, post-surgery, after and before chemotherapy, before radiotherapy, after radiotherapy. This is the way to collect the oncological patient. And so the process, one only informed consent, serum, blood, and tissue, and only one biobank, serum, plasma, and so on, and tissue of the patient. And we are happy because is our work good? I think yes. 98% awareness, 95% understanding. The patient is interesting of our biobank. It's very important. The patient help to grow the biobank. This our storage room. How to use the sample. Request, steering committee, if the request is good, approbation, material transfer agreement, biobank distribution. But biobank must support any study that include a collection of sample. And so, biobanking on demand is another important tool for biobank. And so, every collection of our institute is in biobank. The best biobank is the one that collects a lot, but is always empty, because the researcher use the sample of biobank. This is important. This is important. And this model, we try to we will try to export in all this region, Trieste, the FIF, Udine, because we can use in CL data center the ET of our region to centralize the biobank. Every part of this is different, but the integration with the regional registry allow the registration through which common search query can be performed. Quindi is important that today this region could be have a biobank. But coming together is a beginning. Keep it together is progress. Working together is success. The biobank is working with all actors of hospital clinician, research, and so we remember Henry Ford. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. It was a beautiful presentation. We are running late, so we started 5 minutes later. So we have 10 minutes for discussion, questions, and interaction. Because we need to stop because they have to clean the room, and there's one train leaving at 6:16. So we have to do it. Okay, please, any question? Before, while you are getting together with your mind and then let's break the ice. I think that one of the main message of this beautiful conference is that working together makes a difference. And even more important is that the biobank is zero without clinical data linked to the sample. This is really important. Massimo Gion stressed this concept, and this concept was, in addition, stressed by the other speakers, and as Agostino told us the last speech, if we have a sample, but the sample is not linked to the clinical data, that's meaningless. Then this is why also we need not only to try to keep teaching the hospital and the clinicians to fill the form, we need to simplify the form, and ideally we need to have everything centralized. That's why INCL, which is the central location for all the repository of clinical data, may be important to be linked with the biobank. And ideally, after, I think, 5 years of fight, Agostino almost solved the issue. I don't know. So please, is there any question? Please, Kay.
Thank you very much for your...
The mic.
Thank you for your wonderful presentations. It has become clear the importance of biobanks in the presentations that you made. And it was also made clear that setting up and maintaining the biobank would really entail cost and a lot of work. So my question would be, in terms of sustaining these biobanks, at least for the C3B project, so what's your strategy in terms of sustainability? Because right now you are funded with the Interreg. So what happens after the funds are used up? And also how CRO now is handling this kind of sustenance in your process for the biobank.
Okay, let's start, Vladka, to answer the first question, and then Agostino will take over.
Like you said, the Interreg project is the beginning, and then we would like to build up the biobank and to install this biobank in our organogram. So it will be a service of our institution, like we have other services, and like we heard in the last presentation, we presume that the majority of samples will be collected on demand. For special studies, that we will provide samples of high quality to people who will perform some clinical studies research, or maybe they want these samples for educational purposes. Whereas on the other side, we would like to have also a biobank, like Devis said, of larger format, to have, let's say, 10,000 or even more samples, because it's not a problem for us to get such a number, and to have these samples for some epidemiological studies and things like this, because this is really a treasure, like Professor Tiribelli said, or Dr. John. This is a treasure, national treasure, that you have the possibility to perform some retroactive studies or some epidemiological studies and so on. So yes, we would like to go on with maybe different sources. We have to earn money out of this. I hope it will be empty sometimes, but we'll also have samples which will be then there on stock. If we want to make, like, when new virus appears, you can look back when it appeared and so on.
Agostino.
For us is an institution, cioè the oncological make a biobank every patient without project. The project is after, And so we make biobank the all patient in our institute.
Well, let me add one point which in my opinion is important, particularly now that the cost of energy is increasing every day. I mean, having a biobank is not a cost, it's an investment. I mean, bank means I go to bank to give my money to the bank, hoping that the money will grow. And exactly the same issue. So biobank is where I put some effort, some samples, but I'm pretty sure that if I use correctly, this will in the future have a lot of output in terms of kits, in terms of natural history of the disease, and so forth. So I'm really investing in something. And we do hope that our authorities will understand this. But I'm rather confident they will understand because it makes a lot of sense. Any other question? Well, if not, we are almost on time. Actually, we are ahead of schedule. We thank you, all of you, for the participation, and let me, before ending, express my deep gratitude to the 4 speakers. All of them did an excellent job, and we really enjoy extensively what they presented, how they presented, and the message they convey. Thank you very much.